But this next panel I'm really excited about. I say that about every panel. I work in a great job where I am truly excited about every panel we put together. But this next panel is going to bring up some employee owners. We've heard a lot about how employee owners experience employee ownership and the benefits they accrue from it today. From people who aren't employee owners. So now let's see if that's really true about what we've assumed. And I think what we'll hear in part is that I think sometimes in the employee ownership space, we often get stuck talking about what's in a person's ESOP balance. And that's certainly important to thinking about addressing wealth inequality. But I think more of what we'll hear today is kind of the human experience that employee ownership provides, the ability to be seen in the workplace, the ability to be involved in decisions, the ability to show up at a place and be heard and respected, and the impacts that can have on how people perform, as we heard in the earlier panel. So I'm going to invite our panelists up here and introduce them really quick and get the ball rolling. So first, we have stepping up right now is Sarah St. Ange. She's inside sales engineer at Admix, and we'll get a little bit into these different companies and organizations that they work for. To the left of Sarah is Ashley Bell, who's the inventory coordinator at a few cool hardware stores right here in DC's metro area. To the left of Ashley is Adrian Flores, project manager at Accent Landscape Contractors out of El Paso. And then to the left of Adrian is Juan Carlos Lopez, executive associate at Cooperative Home Care Associates, one of our largest employee-owned companies in the country and one of my favorite ones as well. And then I'm so thrilled to have Tim Garbinski, the communications director from the National Center of Employee Ownership, moderating today's conversation. Anybody who knows Tim knows that he's one of the brightest, most kind, empathetic, and warm people in this space, and really the perfect moderator for this discussion. And outside of his role, I learned last night that Tim is a new father. I got to meet his baby, so I encourage you to ask Tim to see pictures of the baby because he is super, super cute. And I think we all need cute babies in our lives right now. But I'll turn it over to you, Tim.
Thank you so much, Matt. Can you repeat most of that for my mother later? I think she would be really thrilled to hear all of that. And if you're interested in meeting the baby, you'll find us at the hotel later, where he's very friendly to new people. But we're not here to talk about him as much as I'd love to. I am really thrilled to be up here. I really appreciate the Aspen Institute, Rutgers University, having me up here to moderate this talk. But I'm not going to do much of the talking, which is fantastic. I wanted to just get some ideas out here at the start. This is the Ideas Forum, after all, and as we've been seeing, it's aptly named, right? There's already been a lot of really interesting ideas shared in terms of how to grow employee ownership. It's also really apt because part of what makes employee ownership so special is the ideas that the companies themselves generate at a clip that other companies cannot necessarily compete with. It's their strategic advantage, those ideas. And even just the idea of employee ownership, right? Like, it's so impactful. It's why we're all here. It's why we have our Congress people here talking about it as well. It's why it's well represented on both sides of the aisle. But it's not just an idea. And the reason why this idea is at all worth supporting is people, right? Like, we can talk as much as we want in sort of macro terms, but if we weren't here to talk about this for the aspect of creating good jobs or for the aspect of creating real retirement wealth, it wouldn't have the impact that it currently has for us. That's why we're in this room. And so in order to really think about and talk about what makes these places thrive and what makes employee ownership good for the country writ large, it's important to talk about what makes it good for the employee owners who make employee ownership itself thrive. So, I promise that's the majority of the talking I'm going to do. After that, now I'm really excited to, again, we've had our speakers already introduced. I promised them I wouldn't be standing at the podium, but I don't see a bonus microphone, so I might stand here for a little bit. Oh, delightful. Great, now I'm going to join the group. So just to get us started, thank you very much. Just to get us started, I want us to, please. Oh, okay. As previewed.
Thank you very much for your patience. We have Senator Cassidy joining us. And yes, It's my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Senator Bill Cassidy from the state of Louisiana. Senator Cassidy is chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Help Committee of the U.S. Senate, and he is the first physician to serve as its chair since 1933. He's also on the Finance, Veterans Affairs, Energy, and Natural Resources Committee. Senator Cassidy is a great friend of ESOPs and employee ownership, a great defender in the Congress, and we're delighted to welcome you, Senator, and hear your thoughts. Thank you very much for coming.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for having me. I always figure that ESOPs are where Karl Marx and Adam Smith meet in warm embrace, right? It's kind of like workers of the world unite, controlling the means of production in a way that actually augments the productive capacity. It is really an innovative thought. I'm told way back when, I know you know the story better than do I, that Russell Long was trying to think of a way as to how to come up with an idea for this sort of idea, and he just kind of put it out there for academics. I'm told, might be apocryphal, that the academic who responded to him was at Stanford, but originally from Opelousas, Louisiana. There's a great Hank Williams song, Opelousas, so stand. Anyway, it is not the place that you would think the Stanford economists would come from. But nonetheless, they were able to, but on the other hand, it kind of made sense to me, because if you really are trying to share the wealth of those who are in the executive suite with those who are on the factory floor, somebody from Opelousas would be thinking about that. You know, it's just because it's not a place of C-suites, it's a place of people working on the factory floor. And some bright person figuring out, how do we share that wealth? Because I think of ESOPs as effectively sharing that wealth. Y'all have embraced it. I thank you very much. And by the way, I've seen it in my state. Acadian ambulances, I don't know if anybody from Acadian is here, but there's others in my state who are doing that. And I see not just the kind of theory of it, but the actual reality of it. And that's also important, because people can have a lot of great ethereal theories, but they don't work. And this one truly seems to do so. Now, that said, we just passed Secure 2.0. Michael, will you raise your hand? Michael Sinecor is one of my folks who works for me. He's a bachelor. He's available 24/7. Easter, Passover, or Ramadan, doesn't matter. Call him, and he's available. But in that process, Secure 2.0, which he is very key in, we were able to provide legal clarity so that ESOPs can sell shares to employees without being sued by the Department of Labor. Nice little thing to do. And on that, we have a commitment in order to continue to enable how ESOPs function, both for the business and for the people who work at the business. Now, I'll just say that I'm told Laurie Chavez de Rimmer, which my staff calls her LCD, which sounds a little bit like something on your computer, but that she's the current Secretary of Labor, is committed to making sure that this continues to work, and I am likewise committed to working with her. There is no way, though, that LCD and I know more about ESOPs than do you. And so if we're going to make this product a better product, one that works, again, for the person on the factory floor and the person on the corner office, then it's going to be our partnership by how we achieve that. And there's something fitting that the way that we improve ESOPs, in a sense, involves that partnership, such as ESOPs themselves represent. So I do challenge y'all, if y'all have ideas about how to make them better, however you would define better, and believe me, we'll screen it, we'll make sure that it works, we'll make sure that it can pass the Senate with 60 votes or whatever it takes, reach out to us. And I made a little joke about Michael, but I'm not making a joke about Michael. He will be absolutely available when you bring those ideas, because our goal is to serve you, because you are serving the people in your business as they participate in the rising tide lifting all boats. So if you have any feedback, please get in touch with us. And then I'll close my remarks here and just thank you, Joe, for allowing me to speak. Thank you. Thank you.
Vice President of the Aspen Institute.
Hello, Maureen. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think. Great. I'm good. Thank you. Are these your notes?
They are not.
Thank you to the senator. Ladies and gentlemen, I've misplaced my other microphone again, so I'm just going to stand here for a second. Look, hey, thank you, Leslie. Employee ownership is successful partially because of the nimbleness and the flexibility and the adaptableness, and so that's what we're displaying here for you right now. So thank you. All right. So again, thanks to the elected Congress people for stopping by and demonstrating their support. But I'm very excited for the way that ties in. We're here because, again, these are good jobs in a time when that is in dire need, right? But what is it that makes these jobs good? Why do we support these as workplaces? We're going to talk about that here today. So to start with, I want to just dig in a little bit about your personal work histories, and I'm actually just going to start down the line. So I'm going to start with you, Sarah. If you could tell us about your path to employee ownership and your early experience of it, please.
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. Very honored and humbled and excited to be here. My name is Sarah St. Ange, and I work for a small-ish employee-owned business up in Londonderry, New Hampshire called Admix. We are a manufacturing ESOP. As we said, they make up the large majority of ESOPs. And we manufacture industrial mixing equipment. So giant big mixers to little lab-scale mixers that are going to make your everyday food products, mayo, ketchup, candy coatings, pill coatings, all that kind of fun stuff. I actually got my degree from the University of New Haven in 2019 in December, saved by the bell, just missed COVID, got to walk, and my degree was in chemistry. When I graduated, I got a job in a restaurant for a little while that was supposed to be short-term, ended up being a little longer. I guess if anyone can guess why. In 2020, what happened. So when I was ready to go back into the job market in 2021, I was interviewing for positions and found a lot of positions in my field in analytical chemistry for an entry-level position. While they might pay around what I was expecting, it was either an off shift or the benefits weren't that great. And it was really hard for me to find a balance of everything that I was looking for. And then I came across Admix, and I started in their product lab, their test lab. It's not really an analytical lab. I'm working with our equipment and testing our customers' products on it. But it was a foot in the door. That was a very average pay, entry-level job, but what appealed to me is it was a 9-to-5, and they were all excited about this thing called an ESOP. And so I was like, all right, well, let me learn a little bit more about this. They do the ESOP, obviously, which is my stocks that I own. They also do a 401k match on top of that, so I can do a little bit of both and have some diversity there. And then on top of that, we have other benefits, such as a 980 work schedule in the summers, where I get every other Friday off, which is super nice. They do Friday breakfast every single Friday, and every co-owner switches off who brings in breakfast that Friday. We did Fresh Fruit Wednesday for a while, which is now, we had Fresh Salad Wednesday, we do Popcorn Wednesdays. It's always something. And right away, I was able to get involved very quickly. So I decided to take that chance and say, I'm going to do something completely out of my comfort zone, completely out of my wheelhouse, and try this sales company. Since then, I served, within the first 6 months, I was on our OC chair. I went to some ESOP conferences where I got to network with people in the professional world. I got to organize a bike build for charity within that first year, where we built some bikes, and that was paired with our stock reveal party, which was a lot of fun for everyone who got involved. And I actually ended up getting nominated and won Employee Owner of the Year, both regionally and nationally, that same year that I was hired. Thank you very much. But it just goes to show how many opportunities exist for someone who's just starting out in their career. I had done a short little stint at Anheuser-Busch, which is a very different type of company. And the benefits available to me there, their union was actually working on taking away benefits from future employees. And they were bribing current employees with bonuses to pass those things. So coming from that environment to coming to an employee ownership environment where everyone's invested in the success of the company, and not only that, but we actually get to take a piece of that home with us, that's what made the difference for me. So thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. I'm going to move now to Ashley, who similarly, you entered the workforce in its current guise under the post-COVID era, but unlike Sarah, you weren't as familiar with the employee ownership necessarily when you started. Maybe you can tell us about your experience.
Sure. So I'm Ashley Bell. Thank you for having me here. I am an employee owner with a few cool hardware stores right here in DC. We also have stores in Virginia and Baltimore, Maryland. And I moved to DC in 2021. I was unemployed at the time, and it was either move back with my parents or get a job. And so I got an hourly position at my local hardware store. I had no idea it was employee owned. But shortly after I was hired, I began learning about the employees and what it meant to them to work there. There are employees that I work with that have been with the company almost since the start, and they are fully vested owners. And so they started talking to me about the employee ownership program and how it's essentially, in their eyes, the equivalent of their retirement fund. And so that was a very exciting idea. As I continued working, I went from a part-time employee to a full-time inventory coordinator, and then became an assistant manager at our Logan Hardware location, and I am now the inventory manager for the chain, which has been very exciting. And I really don't think I would have climbed that quickly in any other company other than this one. Immediately when I began working, the culture of the company was one that my ideas were heard, my voice was heard, and that was not just unique to me. Everyone is heard at our company. We are very much a family. We all know each other. We all say hi to each other. We all, are invested in one another, and we're all invested in growing our ESOP. So yeah, it's been a great 3 years here.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Ashley. And I'm going to come back to a bunch of that stuff, particularly the sort of satisfaction you're saying that is sort of demonstrated across the board, and feeling heard, I think, is really important. I'm going to move now to Adrian, though, who, again, we have a really wonderful panel because it's 4 very distinct experiences. Your company, Accent Landscape, became employee-owned while you were there. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how it was like for you?
Of course. On?
Yes, sir.
My name is Adrian Flores. Thank you all for having me here. Kind of excited to be here. Learning from them as well. We're Accent Landscape has been employee owned for 3 years now. So we are on. We're still crawling. Eventually we'll be walking a little bit faster. So it is exciting to be here and see the stories and grab ideas. So 9 years ago I started Accent Landscape. I've done it all. I've done oil field. I've done sales, Taco Bell, you name it, everything, right? So 9 years at Accent. Here, before it went employee-owned, I was asked, I left the company for a bit due to some family issues with my wife. When I came back, the owner asked me, could I trust you to that you're going to stay, because he really needed me. And I told him, like I said, I'm loyal, right? And at that point, at that moment in my life, I thought I was loyal, like a loyal employee, loyal to him. And it's funny how he's no longer there with us, and it's transitioned to, I thought, now I'm loyal to the company, but I am not. I've learned that I'm actually loyal to the employees and to the employees' families, because really that's what you start to see is everybody's taking care of themselves. Each other, So I started as a shovel operator, moved into a branch manager, and then now, but now I'm a project manager for Accent Landscape. Hopefully within the next couple of years, I'm an interim CEO. I'll be running the show, I guess you could say, and I also sit on the board and part of the ESOP committee. So being here is really exciting. I love her stories of, that's a company that's been in ESOP for a long time, and they have so many great ideas that I love to take back and start implementing so we can stop crawling and start running. So
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And really, again, sort of mirrors Ashley's sort of incredible ascent, too. And I'm really excited to touch on a little bit the camaraderie piece that you really just pinpointed. But before we get there, Juan Carlos, again, 4 distinct panelists. Juan Carlos comes to us. He's been in the employee ownership space the longest, and very excited he's up here because he's with Cooperative Home Care Associates. They're a worker cooperative. So we've been talking a lot about ESOPs. We love ESOPs. It's very exciting to get a worker co-op perspective up here. So please, Juan Carlos, if you could share your journey into employee ownership and what that's looked like for you.
Sure. Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Juan Carlos Lopez. I'm actually right now the client services program manager. It's a new position that I was just promoted to recently after COVID. Prior to that, I started cooperative right during the 2009 recession, and I wasn't sure what to do. So I was given an opportunity to start as a temp, as an AA, in this company that had no idea. It was not what I wanted to do, but it was a placeholder until I figured it out. Little did I know that I was going to fall in love with the job, the people, and the industry. I started as an AA, supporting all the different departments, and then I got to know the people, and I saw that the workers themselves were forming committees to solve their own problems, and that was kind of unique, right? I saw that people were given a voice. It was unique in a sense where, to this day, we have an open door policy where any worker at any moment could come in and speak to any staff member at any time, and we'll take the time and listen to their concerns, their issues, or any kind of problems that they're having. Fast forward a couple of years, I was promoted to the executive associate where I supported the president and the vice presidents, and then COVID hit. And then that's when I saw the true essence of a cooperative come into play, where we tapped into Cooperative Textiles from South Carolina, where they helped make masks for us. They helped provide PPE for our workforce during COVID. Our workers are still essential workers. They, put their lives at risk going out and supporting other families to be able to live in their homes with dignity and respect. It's been a great 15 plus years already at Cooperative. And it's something right now that, I still value, and I see the importance of the people and giving them a voice and actually having them be excited to do the jobs that a lot of people don't really want to do. And it's an industry where people are invisible, and we're giving them a spotlight for them to, be heard and have a voice, and, make changes in their own hands as well. So I'm happy to be here and continue this conversation.
Thank you so much for that. Can I call you JC? I know you mentioned that before,
You
so
can
I'm
call
going to
me
stick with
JC.
that just for time purposes. So actually, I'm going to stick with you for just a second, though, JC. You ended there with how, it's an industry where you say a lot of people sort of feel invisible, but you were talking a lot about how they, how your worker cooperative demonstrably gives them like a platform and a voice and makes sure they're heard. I want to dig in a little bit more on, the other ways in which Cooperative Home Care Associates like really sees the worker owners, the employee owners as whole people. And what sort of benefits they provide, the governance structure. If you could touch on that a little bit, I think that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. So we, as a worker-owned cooperative, our workforce, we offer also free training to the workforce. And we don't advertise on newspapers, on the radio, billboards, or nothing like that. All the people that come to us is through word of mouth, either through clients or other workers. Once they're trained, we also provide them with work. While they're working, the first 3 months, they're on probation. And then once they pass probation, we offer them the opportunity to buy a stock in the company. Everyone whether you're a paraprofessional or administrative worker, owns only one stock. Even the president only owns one stock. The stock is $1,000 of, but we recognize that a lot of people may not be able to afford $1,000 right away. So we ask them to pay $50 up front, and then the company loans them the rest, interest free. All we do is after we take $3.65 out of every paycheck for 5 years, and then the loan is paid off. And I tell the workers to think about this as savings, because if they decide to leave, the company buys the stock back and gives them the $1,000 right back. This allows them to become worker owners and take in all the benefits of being a worker owner, which allows them to run for the board of directors. Our board of directors is comprised of 8 worker-owned paraprofessional home care workers and 1 admin staff. They are the decision makers in the company. Luckily, in 2019, the board decided to put our profits into retainer. This is why we're still here. Other than that, other people would have just paid out dividends and everybody would have kept their money. But they made the decision as a whole, knowing that, it's not about individuals, but it's about the company, but it's about the people that we wanted to sustain and be here for longer. So not only are they allowed to run for the board, but we also provide our worker owners with financial literacy. We also provide them with tax preparations for free as well. So we take away stressors in their common life that they don't have to worry about, because they know that as a worker owner, they can do these things and continue on with work. Throughout my time here at Cooperative, I've spoken to many people who have retired, and they say, it's thanks because of Cooperative that I was able to put my kids through college. And now they're the first ones in the family going to college. So it's a huge pride for our workers to say, because I'm a worker owner and I've been with Cooperative for so long, I'm able to do X, Y, and Z. I'm able to go on a cruise now and retire. It's so heartwarming to see the many stories of people just being valued and advanced in life and provide more opportunities for younger generations to come.
That's great. I really, first of all, anything that reduces stressors in this day and age is probably welcome across the board. But really, that seeing them as the whole people and helping them and then creating that pride of ownership is really still so unique. And I want to touch on that now with you as well, Adrian, moving on back down the line. You've been at the company longer than it's been employee owned, and you've talked a little bit about how it impacted you, but what about with your fellow employee owners? How did that land? What has it been to sort of introduce and educate on employee ownership at Accent?
Sure. So I did want to start by saying that I think when the previous owner did this, it was a true blessing. It could have gone to private and could have not been there anymore. The longer tenured employees also could have been already, you've done your time. So that first of all is a blessing that we became an ESOP. And in regards to the not being an ESOP, you work for the owner, get paid, get vacation, your bonus, and that's all you expect. And the people that my coworkers have been doing that for 30 plus years. The company's been in business for about 40 years. So the guys that have been there for 30 plus years, it was very difficult, for us to, especially I'm a big believer in it. So it was very difficult for me to sit by and hear them saying, "Oh no," it's I guess what 95% Latino. So it's a culture thing. It's very hard to be able to tell somebody, hey, they're here to help. This is going to be good, and the outcome's going to be great. And so I'm not going to lie that everybody was happy. It was very hard for us to start convincing the older gentleman on how this was going to happen. As time did pass, after the first year, especially when you get that tangible. And you have the big party and you show everybody what money they have now, whether it's a lot or a little, they start to see that, this is true. So it starts becoming more on the meetings we were having. It starts becoming more and more togetherness instead of, oh no, that's not true. And now it starts to everybody gets humbled and says, hey, what can we save? Where can you cut the because before it's that mentality of it's not my money, and then you start to think, well, actually that is my money. So you start to especially my boss telling them, hey, the pipe that's outside. I'm doing a golf course in New Mexico right now, and I mean, if you would think about a stick of pipe, you're talking about $1,000, and you just have it rolling out there. That's when you start to think differently and saying, "Hey, that's my money," and start taking care of everything that you have there. So the culture is starting to change. We're 3 years in, and from where it started to where we're at now, it's changed a lot in that aspect.
Can I just add
Yeah,
to that?
please.
From the perspective of a company, now I didn't mention it before, we've been an ESOP since 2001, we were 30%, and then 2017 we became 100%. So we're fairly mature ESOP at this point. And coming from the perspective of a mature ESOP as well, that culture only continues to grow, especially as those account balances begin to grow. We have quite a few employees now who have been with the company for 30, 40 years, whose account balances are, 6 figures on top of their 401k. And so now it's like, every decision that's made of the company, everyone wants to know what's going on because they are so invested. And it's gotten down to like counting, how can we save on bolts so that we're not spending as much bolts or wasting as much? People really, really take so much more of an active position in cost saving things, especially as their account balances grow. And I'm sure you saw that change as soon as they received their first statement.
Right.
So that'll only continue and grow.
Yeah, they do. They're more outspoken. There before it wasn't where the labor isn't going to talk to the CEO. The labor isn't going to talk to management. They can't walk in the door. Not saying that's how it was, but that's how it seemed. That's how it portrayed. And now you see the employees coming into the office. I could probably name. We have about 157 employees, and I probably know every single one of them by their names. Where they're coming in and out, interacting. Any questions they have, they know I'm here for them. That's the culture that has changed, and being able to be on the board and work with everybody to where it was just one owner, obviously here. Now it's after 30, 40 plus years, they've never seen a paid vacation except for their management. I went in 9 years ago with paid vacation. Why should I have that 2 weeks and they don't get anything? So we started working little by little, and I was happy to announce this last year that we were able to work together and give them paid vacation, and that was a big milestone for us. Hopefully in the future, we can start talking about how it gives that money back to them. I heard, Leslie, right? I heard you talking about how, and that mentality is just awesome to me, where it's their money, put it back in. And then that thing that's where I want Accent to be at, where it's, hey, we do have a lot of money in the books, but it needs to go back into the employee owners.
It's fantastic. That feels like what I hear a lot in terms of sort of where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, is that line of sight into, oh, I'm doing this. This is affecting not only my eventual account balance, it's affecting that of my friend, my neighbor, my partner. Right. And where you become accountable to the company, because the company is accountable to you. It's yours, right? And it's really impactful. I would love to touch on that for you, Ashley. What's that look like at a few cool hardware stores, sort of, also as a relatively new ESOP-owned company, what it's looked like to really instill that ownership culture value?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said before, everyone has a voice. Everyone's voice is very, impactful and heard. One thing that we are trying to do this year is reduce our losses similar to other companies. And the employees that I've spoken to about doing that, in identifying our losses and, trying to reduce those, they get really passionate. And I've even had to rein some employees in by saying, we can let that thief get away. We don't have to chase them down the street. We can take that loss. Your safety is more important. We've definitely had glad to, we have a lot of passion within our company. And so, yeah, that's the biggest time I see it. And we also, all of our leadership, similar to JC's, we keep the door open. Anyone, if you're just a part-time associate, you can come and talk to senior management. We're going to give you that time. We're going to hear your thoughts. We're going to, take care of you in whatever way we can.
That's fantastic. Part of me almost wishes it'd be a very crowded stage, but I almost wish we had another panelist, and it would feel cruel, who wasn't an employee owner. Just to hear, just to get the perspective and to hear how common or uncommon these things might be. The majority of us have had other jobs, and so we can say. But even just to, after hearing it from 4 people, you sort of start to take it for granted. I want to shift a little bit back to you, Sarah. When we've talked in preparing for this panel, you talked about how important the financial security aspect of the ESOP is. And I was wondering if you could just touch on that a little bit, how it's been important for your fellow employee owners and why you think that's so worth supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best way for me to attack that is to talk again about a very personal story. This goes hand in hand with kind of my comeuppance in the ESOP world. But I was very fortunate to grow up in a 2-parent household where I had a stay-at-home mom and my dad was the breadwinner of the family. When I was in my teenage years, my parents did end up getting divorced, and my mom had to kind of start from scratch because she had been a stay-at-home mom for 15 years and kind of find her feet again in the career world. And that also involved taking a lot of money out of her 401k in order to buy us a new place to live. And so I saw her really struggle because that was the little nest egg that she had. And it was kind of really taken out from under her. And now she's, in her late 50s, wondering when she's going to be able to retire because she just doesn't have that savings. And it just showed me that we're even in a worse space economically right now as someone who's new in the job field, new in my career. Like I said, I graduated 2019, so AdMix is my first real career opportunity. I was very nervous coming into the workforce that I would ever be able to retire, even with saving as a 401k. Pensions don't exist anymore. 401k matches, a lot of what I was looking at for an entry-level job were fairly low. And I just kind of felt very defeated because at an entry-level pay, that was barely enough to, make ends meet on an apartment, let alone, car bill, loans for school. And then my husband and I, 2 months ago now, finally bought a house. But when we were looking at that opportunity, it kind of felt impossible. So I was going into my job search very nervous and scared for what I would find. When I accepted the job at AdMix, one of the first things that they had me do was look at a wealth calculator. And I put in my little entry-level salary with no pay increases planned outside of a 3% per year, right? Cost of living adjustment. And then no promotions, no raises factored into that. And if I was there for 40 years, it threw out a 7-figure number at me. And I nearly fell off my seat, very emotional. And maybe that's unique for someone of my age to consider, but I had seen it firsthand as, the oldest child of seeing this divorce and seeing how unexpected life occurrences can completely derail plans for the future. And so this really made me feel a lot more secure. Now, in the 4 years I've been there, my salary is up 44% from where I started in 4 years. That's incredible. And my ESOP balance, my projected balance for if I retire there, is more than double where it started when I was at my little entry-level spot. And although we have gone up in our share price and we have gone down because the past few years have been difficult, that value continues to grow over time. And even if I don't spend my entire career there, my ESOP balance has already outperformed my 401k. So these things were so incredible for me at the beginning and gave me such a sense of empowerment outside of the fact that my company actually invests in my growth. I, like I said, am a chemistry major, but I worked in a manufacturing product testing lab, and now I'm in sales, none of which are in my wheelhouse, but gosh, have I grown professionally? I have a lot more skills under my belt, all thanks to this incredible company structure that has allowed me to grow professionally and that invests in my growth. My CEO says it every year at our share price announcement, and I always get chuckles when I tell people, an ESOP, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slow scheme. And in this economy where everything's about turning that dollar as quick as you can, that's really not heard of, like that's not understood. But when you think of it from a capitalism standpoint, like I used to be all like, oh, rah, rah, capitalism's the problem, right? Well, great book from Corey Rosen and John Kasich, CEO, Reinventing Companies, Capitalism, and Who Owns What. A quote that is in there that has always stuck with me is the problem with capitalism isn't capitalism. It's that there's too few capitalists. And ESOP creates capitalists of every single employee owner that works there. And then that money goes directly back into our communities and will really, it's just such an incredible vehicle for closing that wage gap. So it has given me such a platform of something where I can really feel like I can make a difference by making this employee ownership voice heard and getting the word out there to why this company structure is so important, not just for the individual, not just for people like me or people who might have a worse or a better situation from where they've started in this economy that it's so unpredictable right now. You know, my dad bought the house that I grew up in for $39,000 back in 1993. And 2 months ago, my husband and I closed on our first home that is smaller than the house I grew up in, and it's a six-figure number that starts with a 4. So it was very accomplishing, but very scary at the same time. But I know that I can use my salary to work on the projects and the future I want to build for my family, and then I can rest assured knowing my retirement is safe. So. Sorry if that was a long answer.
No, that was a great answer is what it was. Thank you so much for that. And I'm glad you mentioned home ownership, just because I really do think so much of the operative discrepancy between like what could be and what is ownership, right? The difference between renting your home versus owning your home, renting a car versus owning a car, it's implicitly impactful. And so applying that to employee ownership for businesses follows for me. Thinking a little bit more about being in the early career, and I'm not sure what the Congress people have done to our time budget, so okay. I would love to end with our panelists talking, so I'm actually going to break for questions now, if that's okay. Do we have any questions in the audience for any of our panelists here?
So this is for everybody. You all are champions within your companies, I'm imagining. I know you, Adrian, so I'll ask you first, but I would love to hear from everyone. What are some of the things you do as a peer to like help the people that you work with understand the ESOP or get excited about it, or at least stop mistrusting it?
Right. So some things that we've started to do is here 2 weeks ago, I think, or 3 weeks ago, I sat down with the committee and said, hey, you know, the information is always in the check stubs, and then we throw out a flyer or some memes, something funny, you know, so that they can read it, see it. But I didn't feel it was working, so I felt like it was just going back to the norm. So we decided to do in El Paso, it's divided by the mountain in the middle, west side, east side, right? I'm from El Paso, Texas. And so we got all the crews that were working on the west side. We went to a park, put up a canopy, and we cooked burgers. We cooked burgers at 11 o'clock. Everybody could show up at 12. And while they showed up at 12 with the ESOP committee, we had printed out some hats that say 100% employee owned, and then gave them information. And as we're there, you know, they're eating burgers. They're not under the gun because they're at lunch hours now or anything like that. It's the ESOP committees out there, you know, networking with them and letting them know this is part of the committee. This is where we're at. You know, kind of keeping them in it. You know, don't forget about us. In other words, and that's just the beginning. That we're trying to see what we can do to keep the information out there.
and I'm sorry, I forget the name.
Sarah.
Sarah. So first of all, NCO should hire you. So I'll just put that out there. But for us baby boomers that run organizations that have large numbers of younger workers, how would you condense that great speech you just gave about ESOPs into 3 or 4 just really key messages that would hit home for this generation?
Building generational wealth is kind of seems like something that's impossible, especially when you don't come from generational wealth. This gives you that vehicle to do that. That was the biggest buy-in for me. That and just reminding them it is a get-rich-slow scheme. And if you show up each day and you give your ideas and your enthusiasm and your innovation to this company, it will come back to you. Hopefully, should everything go well. But
I'm going to steal Terry's question and just pose it to my remaining 3 panelists here, which is, if in a phrase you could sum up why we should all be so supportive of employee ownership, why it's been impactful to you, if you could share that with our audience. And I'll start, since Sarah, I'm going to count yours as already done, with you, Ashley.
Sure. I had this realization a week or 2 ago. I think I'm the only one of my friend group that actually likes their job. I like going to work. I enjoy getting to see the people that I work with. I would go for free. I can't go for free, but I would. But I did kind of a roll call in my head. I don't think many of my peers feel that way. And I think that is the impact of the ESOP.
That's stellar. Thank you, Ashley. Please, Adrian.
I'd hate to kind of piggyback of her, but I'm going to. Because it's where my vision is for the company, to put everybody there. You know, I wake up at 3:30 every morning, go to a gym, go to work 5 to 5, and I don't mind it one bit. I do it Monday to Friday. If I have to go out of town on the weekend, I do it. I love my job. I really like what I do. I like what it stands for now, and I really, really wish that I can get how I see the company, where everybody else can see it the same, where they don't have to wake up and say, "Oh, gotta go back to work." You know, it's hey, go to work. You don't even think about it. It's not even a job for me. So that's the main thing for me, I guess. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Adrian. JC, please.
Yeah, you got a dedicated workforce who's willing to roll up their sleeves and go to work, not for you, but for everyone else working together. And you get that camaraderie where you see yourselves as equals, not working for one person, but you're working for each other.
Well, I can't say it any better. Thank you all for working on behalf of your fellow employee owners, and thank you all for standing with us. Thank you.
Thank you.